Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Today, we are going to talk about the holistic approach and how it works compared to the traditional approach, because I think a lot of people who are starting to become more accepting of this type of approach, and then there's still some that think it's a little woo-woo, as we call it in the community. But I just want to explain a little bit how it works, because as we become more aware of, yes, the body connects with the mind, so sometimes we're creating physical symptoms in our body because of the way that we're thinking and feeling. And animals can do that too. But a lot of people don't consider the emotional aspects, of the animal's wellness. So I thought I'd just talk about it a little bit, because typically, and I've seen a homeopathic intake form, and I tried to convert it to animals, but I realized that there's a lot of questions on there that most pet owners wouldn't be able to answer, just because a lot of people couldn't even answer those questions. It's like, how many times a day do you feel pain in this quadrant of your abdomen? And most people don't keep track of that stuff, but animals can't communicate with us, so there's a lot of unanswered questions there. And people are really good at reading their animals usually and sensing their emotions and things like that. But it's including those things in their wellness that's really important. So most holistic practitioners take a whole body approach, meaning, yes, they look at the physical symptoms and indicators, but they're also looking at the emotional things. What's in their environment? Has something changed? Did their neighbor spray pesticides recently? Has their diet changed? Did someone in their house move or get a different job? What about their diet is different? Are they eating less? Are they eating more? Are they going to the bathroom regularly? All of these things. Has their weight changed? Did they make a new friend somewhere? And I find more often than not, if it's not like a physical injury of some kind, most of the cases that I end up working on stem from emotional issues or environmental issues. And I'm finding the trend really interesting, because as humans, our society and mental health issues like anxiety and depression and just the stress of being in such a fast-paced world get to us, it also gets to our animals. So I think it needs to be considered more, because I've noticed many times in Kaya that if I cycle sometimes, so sometimes I'm like super gung-ho for everything, very motivated to do everything, and then I'll have a week where it's a little bit lower, and Kaya's always slower during those weeks. And I noticed that if I eat something or more of something than I probably should have, my stomach's upset, but so is hers. So I start to feel guilty when I eat those things, because I know that she's going to react the same way. But I'm trying to think more about her when I think about eating those things, so that I'm not doing that to her. I do need to disconnect us a little bit, just so she doesn't have all these problems, but otherwise she's a perfectly healthy dog. So it makes you more aware of what you're doing to yourself and putting more importance on what you're doing in your own life for your wellness, because that also contributes to your animal's wellness. So take an example. Separation anxiety is pretty common. Most traditional people would just say, oh, well, work on spending less time direct with your dog, get them to, work towards being okay by themselves. But in a more alternative approach, I get a lot of cases of separation anxiety, but what I find is that usually it stems from something that happened in their past. So for example, they were traumatized, or one day they were left by themselves and there was a thunderstorm, or in rescue cases, sometimes there was abuse in their past. But there could be anxious when they're separated from you because they're trying to be protective of you and they're worried about your safety. So there's a lot of different reasons why, but unless you really know the root cause of it, it's hard to get rid of it or adjust them to being okay by themselves. Because I would probably say 3 out of 10 dogs or cats that I work on have separation anxiety, and it's becoming really, really common because of all the people that work 9 to 5 and they're gone, and some of them hire dog walkers or their neighbors come over and things like that, but they do spend a lot of time by themselves. And it can be lonely for them, especially if it's Monday to Friday, all day, every day. But ultimately, finding the root cause of your animal's behavior problem will end up fixing a lot of their physical problems. So dogs with separation anxiety, they tend to get bladder control issues. Sometimes they develop tension in their heart or their chest, and can result in things like coughing or a heart murmur in some cases. I've seen incontinence, I've seen kidney stones, but ultimately it's finding the root cause of that. Yes, they have separation anxiety, but what's causing that? How did they get it? And in a lot of cases, if the animal's rescued or something like that, or it happens when you're not home, you won't know the answer. And that's when Reiki comes in really handy, because I can almost communicate with them. I haven't done any formal training in it, but I have some animal clients that will give me information back and forth, either in pictures or words, and it comes in really handy because I'll mention something or describe a room to them that they're showing me. They'll say, yeah, that's the room I adopted them from. That's so strange. I'll say, well, they don't have very good memories from the place that you adopted them from. They're really glad to not be there anymore, but there is some trauma there, and that helps us move forward to working through those issues, whether it's Reiki or flower essences or acupressure if they live closer. But it's the balance between looking at the physical indicators and the emotional and energetic indicators, because there's some animals that are more prone to separation anxiety if they spend a lot of time with you and you take them everywhere, and then all of a sudden you're not there for whatever reason. They're more likely to develop those issues and have strong attachment problems. But when it comes to, another example is nervous or aggressive animals. And most of the time, from what I find, is that the animals either has been traumatized or abused, or they're trying to protect someone, whether it's themselves, their owner, their puppies, what have you. But even Kaya, who's been attacked twice in the forest, once by 2 big white mastiffs, and the second time by a lady, and I don't know if I've told this story on here, a big brindle bully breed that was off leash with a shock collar, and the owner wasn't paying attention, didn't have a leash with her at all, which I yelled at her for, who went for the back of Kaya's neck, right up here. And Kaya gets defensive now when we walk. Sometimes she's good with other dogs, sometimes she's not. But because I was there when the accident happened, I can help her work through it, and she is getting better. But there are some cases, if the dog's trying to greet her and only has 2 feet on the ground, I just say, no, she's not ready, and walk away, because that's just setting her up for negative interactions. It's going to make it worse. So usually when you're working with environmental or energetic problems, you have to, yes, look at the emotional things and help them behaviorally in their environment and interacting positively to change their perception. But you also want to look at their physical environment. So I've changed her food recently. Sometimes I use Rescue Remedy to help calm her down before we go out, so that she's more relaxed in a state to make that positive association. But looking at both physical, sometimes when she's nervous, her stomach gets upset and she gets diarrhea. So planning for, okay, I know I'm not going to be home, but her walker is coming today. So making sure that her group walker knows if on one day she's not feeling that well, or she's a little slower, she's having some sensitivity, to make sure to pass that along, because it really does help. She does love her group walks and she has a lot of fun. And I always look forward to when she comes, because Kai always comes back so excited. And I know one of the other owners that has a dog that goes with them, and they always have so much fun together. And she does really well, but I find it's strange dogs that go face-to-face greetings, and we're still working on that. But she's made a lot of progress so far, and I'm proud of her for that. She made a new friend. She's met him before, and they were a little hesitant at first, but they play beautifully together, and I'm really, really happy for that. But just the next time your pet displays some behavioral issues, just make sure to look at, where do I know why they're doing this? And looking at things in their environment, both physical and emotional, that could have stimulated it if you don't already know why it's happening. And often that'll give you extra insight into how to approach fixing it. Basically, that's how the holistic approach works. Rescue Remedy is really amazing, especially for nervous dogs, but I think that's all I have to say for now. Next week I'm talking about GMOs in pet food, so do keep an eye out for that. And on Friday I'm doing another collaborative video with my friend Mika in California, and we're talking about acupressure points, so do keep an eye out for that. Looking forward to it. See you on Friday and then on Tuesday.